Namaste. I haven't done a live for a while now, so I thought I'd really put myself on the spot and do this live today. After some contemplation, after this last weekend, I was actually at a Young Living symposium on the Gold Coast, and I love the Young Living essential oils and have built a business around that, which pays the bills and allows me to travel and sing and share love with so many people. But at that symposium, there was a wonderful speaker, and his name was Sam Cawthorn. Some of you may have heard of him. And he was quite inspirational. He was a young Indian, Scottish, Australian. And he had been in a terrible car accident where he had, let's turn my phone off, where he had lost his arm, one arm, his right arm actually, from just under the shoulder. And he had collapsed lungs, chopped liver. His whole leg had been completely crushed and smashed. He was on life support for a week and then spent a long, long time in hospital recouping his body. His leg now no longer bends and it's more steel than flesh. And, of course, he has only one arm and many other physical challenges as well. But he's a wonderful inspirational speaker that travels around the world and has written quite a few books. And talks about bouncing forward instead of bouncing back, which I really related to on a non-dual level, because, you know, bouncing back only takes us into the past. Bouncing forward projects us into a future which could be bright. Personally, I like staying present better, but bouncing forward's definitely better than bouncing back. But it just got me contemplating on life, death, consciousness, and grief. And as you know, many of you, namaste, Sonia and Denisha and Lucy. Many of you know I've had a fair amount of death in my life. And I was talking to a friend, actually, I think it was Denisha the other day, and she was saying that her mother is 90 and she'd actually never seen a dead person until recently, when she saw her younger brother as he died, who was quite old. But for me, I guess death first showed up in my life with pets, because I'm an animal lover, as those who know me understand. I just love all creatures. So we always had a dog and often a cat and sometimes chickens and other things as I was growing up as well. So my first loss came in the form of the first dog I remember, and that was when I was about 7. And the thing that fascinated me then, which fascinates me now, is that, you know, Bozo was his name. Bozo was alive and active, and then all of a sudden an accident happened and Bozo was just still. There was no animating presence. There was no response from him. His aliveness had gone. And even as a child, I remember looking at this body of our beloved dog, and he wasn't there anymore. And of course, there was that grief, which, you know, that suffering of losing, you know, one of our best friends and buddies as a dog. And as I've, you know, become an adult now, I've seen, you know, my husband, my first husband, I've seen his body, and my beloved son, and many others as well. My mother, I was there for her passing, and when she passed, you know, she had been suffering so much, and when she passed, there was just Mum's body lying there and very shriveled from cancer, which is an awful disease. But Mum was gone. There was a body lying there, and we had associated that body, with our mother. But that consciousness, that aliveness, that presence was no longer there. And it was the same when I sat by and watched my son leave the body. And all of a sudden he was gone. I knew he was gone, and I was just sitting with his body, which of course, I birthed that body. That there was an enormous amount of grief there because of my attachment to my son and the way I wanted his life to be. It's very different with my mother, because when she passed, it was a relief. She had been physically suffering so much, and it was a relief that she was free. That consciousness left the body. Our attachment to our body, the way it is huge, and it holds us back enormously. Recently, we've got a dear friend of ours who has had certain body parts removed and is going through a grieving process for that, because we're so attached to the way our body looks and feels, yet this body is not who we truly are. We are the consciousness, the aliveness, the magnificence, the miracle that inhabits this. This is an animated cadaver, we could say, and it's animated by consciousness. And although we attach our visual love to the physical body, it's actually the consciousness and the expression of the individual personality and character that becomes alive from that consciousness that we love. And grieving is real. It's whether we're grieving the loss of a loved one or a pet, which is in my mind still a loved one, grieving the end of a relationship, grieving the loss of a job, grieving the loss of aliveness in one way or another, in some aspect of our life. Because of this total attachment to the way things have been, grief can become very, very deep. Now, I understand now that there is a healthy time to grieve, but there's also an unhealthy time to grieve. And there can be a point where we trust so deeply in the universe, and that the universe is not random. There are no random meetings. There are no random presentations in our life. Everyone in our life, from your goldfish to your animal friends, to the people you work with, to the people you meet, everything is on purpose, and their consciousness is not random. There is a divine matrix, a divine plan. And mathematicians understand this, don't they? And I can't even talk about maths because it's beyond this little brain that I've been given. But mathematicians can see this wondrous, how would you put it, miraculous presentation of the universe from that point of view. And scientists can look at the tiniest little cell, and within one cell there's molecules all doing exactly what they do in perfect symmetry, in perfect harmony. And this exists all around us. The consciousness that is animating this body that we all call now Soraya, although my parents call it, my father calls it something different occasionally. because I was born with a different name. And, you know, we all associate it just with this body, but actually it's the aliveness, it's the miracle of life that animates this. And when this body dies, that life force is never lost. That life consciousness goes on, and not as Soraya, but that consciousness melds back, because there's only one consciousness that's expressing as multiplicity and diversity through all these beings, through the plant beings, through the, you know, the four-leggeds and the winged ones, and through all the wondrous expressions of consciousness in this worldly realm. When we can accept that, when we can accept that everything, even though it may be difficult, is perfect, that there is perfect harmony. And that can be really, really tough. Believe me, I understand that. But when we really deeply understand that, then we're freed from grief. When I understand what happened for my son when he took his life, as tragic and sad as that is, that motivated me not to lose in grief, but to continue on to share wisdom as it's experienced here, even though this is a limited form of wisdom that's shining through here, to share love, to share acceptance. And in my accepting what happened for him, for my mother dying of bowel cancer, for others who are suffering, for the suffering that's occurred here, in that total acceptance, in that understanding of the deep magnificence of the unfolding consciousness in life, as life, we can be set free. And from the point of view of enlightenment or awakening, we don't awaken to anything but this miracle. You're not going to, there's not going to be shooting stars, and this is the miracle. Everyday life, the miraculous conscious life force that's in the people you talk to is the miracle. In the flowers that I can see outside my window, in everything, in a crystal, in the words that are spoken, in all that is being presented for us here. So if we can ultimately let go of our total attachment to the way we think things should unfold, how the body should look, how the body should feel, and be able to accept what is as it is. See the miracles and the wonder and the aliveness in small things. Life will become a very joyful dance. So I hope that some of that has helped in some way. And please don't misunderstand me. I love deeply, as I'm sure you do too. And, when that alive force leaves someone that we love, there is grief. Invite that grief in. That grief is perfect too. Let it be there. Be brave enough to meet that grief in absolute love, and you will be set free. Namaste. Thank you.